FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
Economists are kind of a little bit oblivious to this, but I think this is in some ways central to the problem of cooperation that we have, is that because we've had this zero-sum game, because we've not been successful, what's happened is that the world has got into, all sides have got into a really destructive blame game on this. So on the one hand, we have what I call the narrative of recrimination. So China and India say, hey, we didn't cause the problem. All this problem of climate change is because the US and Europe, over the course of their industrialization over 150, 200 years, emitted so much carbon dioxide that because of that, our development opportunities in the future are being constrained, are being constricted. So why should we have to pay for a problem that we didn't cause? And then they say, well, moreover, we don't even see signs from, say, the United States and Europe that they are serious about cutting emissions themselves. And, the unfortunate reality is that we were hoping that we'd have a climate change bill in Congress this year, but that doesn't seem very likely, so kind of climate change has dropped off the legislative agenda here. And this kind of reinforces the notion in China and India that it's not going to be easy for the US to tackle climate change. And then this is something that they really harp upon. So this is a graph that shows what is the average use of energy around the world. So what does a typical person in the US consume by way of energy? And how does that compare with what the average Chinese or the Bangladeshi or the Pakistani consumes elsewhere? So the United States, let's say, is 100%. Then you look around, India, in fact, consumes, I would say, something like 5 or 10% of the energy that the United States consumes. Or to put it differently, the average American consumes about 20 to 25 times more energy than the average Indian and about 10 to 15 times more than the average Chinese. The reason this is invoked is because in this narrative of recrimination that I said, China and India and other poor countries say, look, if you want to be fair about emissions reductions going forward, we who consume so little, why are you asking us to cut even more from already low levels? Whereas, the average European and American has so much more energy. Isn't it only fair that they should cut much more than what we should? Now, I'm not, don't get me wrong, I'm presenting these arguments from the other side just to give you a sense of how people are thinking about this around the world. Because it's not that these arguments are completely compelling or don't have rejoinders. For example, if you think about the whole who caused the problem, I mean, one can make the argument that why should the American citizen today be responsible for something that his forebears did over the last 50, 100 years? So to invoke historic responsibility like the Indians and Chinese do, I mean, it sounds right at some level, but if you examine it much more closer at a kind of person-to-person level, it becomes a little less compelling. But the point is that there is this narrative, this blame game on one side, which is kind of, it kind of hangs around the atmosphere when we talk about international cooperation on climate change.